You know, the list of Democrats, as we've been talking about, they say that President Biden cannot handle another 4 years. It is growing to 5. But when George Stephanopoulos asked the president, can you do this another 4 years? President Biden said he believes he's the best in position for the job, that the job is about the character of our president. Christina, we keep hearing proponents of President Biden say he is a good man with a good record. But does that mean that he's ready for 4 more years? Does that win elections?
You know, when it comes down to Biden-Trump, I will still vote for Biden any day of the week. I mean, even if it has to be at some point and it gets to be weekend at Bernie's, I would still rather the Biden team be around him being the ones who make the decisions and maintaining our democracy than having the Trump team there ready to dismantle everything that they can and God knows what. So at that point, yes, I would rather it be Biden-Trump. But if we're still at this point where we're trying to determine if he's the right guy, and listening to this interview yesterday and the debate a week ago, yeah, there are a lot of questions, and there's a lot still to kind of figure our way through. I think what I was disappointed about yesterday in the interview, I agree with your commentator beforehand, Nigel, to say he didn't do enough to shore everybody up. There was nothing there that brought confidence. I was still hoping that Joe from the State of the Union a short few months ago was going to be the Joe that showed up for this interview last night, and still not seeing that. I'm not sure. And I'm, you know, I think the party's still taking a reckon with itself at this point.
Yeah, I appreciate your candor. And the fact is that I think a lot of people are thinking, you know, who is president right now if he's not able to make the kinds of decisions that a leader of a nation like the United States needs? California Governor Gavin Newsom, who has obviously been on the short list for replacement at the top of the Democratic ticket, he's back on the campaign trail for the president in Pennsylvania today. So let's listen to what the governor said in Michigan on the 4th of July.
Things did not go as well as the campaign had hoped. Had the opportunity to talk to the president for an hour and a half. Could have gone 2-3 hours. And I mean this with absolute conviction. That was the Joe Biden I remember from 2 weeks ago. That was the Joe Biden that I remember from 2 years ago. That's the Joe Biden that I'm looking forward to reelecting as president of the United States.
It's interesting, Malik, to me that, and I think this is, I'm putting the microphone at my mouth, but I'm holding it for the American people. For so many, especially someone with such a career as the governor of California, to say, well, that was a blip. I didn't see it coming. This isn't the president I know. This isn't the Joe Biden I know. And 2 weeks ago, he was the guy. So I'm trying to, I mean, are American people, whether Democrat or Republican, buying it when there have been warnings? There were some signs before debate night.
I think that Gavin Newsom is made for TV. He is just Hollywood perfect. He gave the perfect answer. He was very supportive and reassuring of Joe Biden. He did exactly what he needed to do, and this will inevitably keep his name in the news. The problem that the Democrats had, if you remember, Joe Biden suggested that he would be a transitional president, and the heir apparent, obviously, was supposed to be Kamala Harris. But instead of talking about Kamala Harris as the heir apparent, we're talking about people like Gavin Newsom and even Gretchen Whitmer, and the 7-month-old governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, who I like him a lot, but we're not talking about Kamala Harris. Biden is running because he ultimately believes he's the only person who can beat Joe Biden, and that's in part because he did it before.
Christina, you know, we have that 5th Democrat, Minnesota Representative Angie Craig, asking the president to step down. But very lesser known names so far have been the ones to say it is time for a replacement on the top of the ticket. Until we hear some major names like Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, even the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, are we saying that those lesser names don't quite add up? They're not strong enough to actually take a serious replacement for, you know, seriously?
Well, listen, there's 535 members of Congress, 100 senators, and 435 in the House, and you've got, you know, Democratic governors around the nation. There can't just be 5 folks that make the call, but they're the ones who are starting. The dam is starting to break. And, you know, Nancy Pelosi, while she stayed, you know, still said that she was with the president, she did say, but the president needs to do some things to shore up the American people and the Democratic Party to believe that he is the right standard bearer. And, you know, Jim Clyburn, also a very senior member of the party, said, I'm with the president, but if we need to make a change, then I'm supporting Kamala Harris. And that's not insignificant. That wasn't 100%. Absolutely, I'm with him, and there's nothing that's going to stop me from being with him.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.